Hi everyone, my name is Sergiu. I am not at my main location today, however, I'm happy to tell you that I am here and able to record again, and although it's been a crazy year for us, all I gotta say is let's jump straight into the video. So I want to cover three main subjects today, but they are all related to each other, so I'm gonna split the video in three parts. I noticed that people are making videos saying that YouTube died. I mean, not literally of course, but ever since corporations and rich people came in and started applying their methodology to video production in order to grab the attention of the younger and or unsuspecting and emotionally driven masses with their 10-minute long videos and overly obvious titles and clickbaity thumbnails, YouTube has lost its mojo. 10 years ago, it used to be mostly creative individuals running the show, the proverbial guy with the camera, right? And they were creating these amazing and unique videos on a platform that gave everybody in the world a voice. Now, these days, videos have this corporate production approach in which companies that have the means to produce, the so-called higher quality content are forcing individual YouTubers to follow in their footsteps because that's where the brainwashed audience wants these days, and everybody wants to make more and more and more and more money. Just check the trending page. This is what's basically being said in these videos, and since the rest of this video is about the so-called endangered original content, I wish to say a few words about this before we start. Now, I kind of agree that YouTube these days feels like a corporate zoo, okay? But let me explain. I've been on YouTube since 2008, and for the most part, I've been a consumer of content. I remember what it used to be like back in the day. I remember how passionate people used to create videos for the fun of it instead of chasing profit all the time, and how at some point you could make a living while being able to do what you love and providing for your family at the same time. And yes, I am also bothered by this, repetitive and emotionally charged but meaningless content that keeps popping up. But at the end of the day, as long as it gets views, people will keep making it, The audience is the algorithm, not the creators, okay? So as long as success is essentially defined as maximizing profit, people will constantly get the wrong idea. And basically, no, you don't have to be a corporation if you don't want to. In fact, original content creators still exist. I watch a good number of them myself, but you, the audience, have to train the algorithm to feed you that kind of content instead of what's there by default. You can still be yourself and be successful at the same time if you're able to realistically tailor your goals to the resources as they are at the time and then build upon that foundation. This is what I love about these people. They keep making content no matter what because they care about what they do. I mean, if your goals are clear, let's say my goal was to make this video. As long as I have achieved that goal, which I have, I am able to consider myself successful. I am a successful person today. And that may not be the case tomorrow, but such is life, Now, does this video make me money? Well, no. However, I don't see the point in not being happy about having made my video just because there's no financial profit in it, as long as my goal was to make the video to begin with. Happiness feels the same whether you're a billionaire or not, but you do need money to live, and we'll get to that in a minute. Creativity is spontaneous. It doesn't have a schedule like corporations demand. I don't see the value in taking advantage of people's weaknesses and filling YouTube servers with essentially crap when I know for a fact that one can make original content that brings value to the table if they really want to. And that's what makes everybody release similar content. That's what makes music sound the same and movies look the same. I almost agree with the people saying that YouTube is dying. However, if you look closely, there's still room for original content. And original content creators didn't go anywhere, they still exist. Now, would I like it if my videos made me money? Well, of course. I mean, let's just clarify something here. There's nothing wrong with wanting to make money. If you want to be a content creator, of course you need to get paid. Every creator needs to meet basic needs if they are to release competitive videos at a steady rate. Needs such as, staying alive, having a place to do your work and gear to work with. It takes money to survive in this capitalistic environment, if you may. And then, of course, I would welcome extra earning on top of the core needs because that would enable me to create higher quality material. there is a reason why people that do have access to resources are able to create better content consistently than people that don't. I mean, that doesn't mean that you can't gain access to resources and improve your content, but it takes time and a little bit of luck. And I mean actual luck, not just being ready for the opportunity when it comes. Don't get me wrong, being ready is a massive advantage, and not being ready more often than not can lead to failure. But some people are more ready than others because their circumstances enable that. Other people simply win the algorithmic lottery or the genetic lottery. Like, there is no denying that. Okay, we've all seen it happen. There is also the case of the people putting in the work and growing steadily into success. It is what it is. Life is dynamic. And me, personally, as long as I'm able to make these videos and contribute, I'm happy. At the end of the day, that's how I view things, and this is my goal. I've decided to take on a YouTube journey and see where it goes, but I have to set some boundaries in order to stay true to who I am. I only care about giving my audience something of value, and also I care about getting better at making content because I'm still a beginner after all, and here's to hoping that this will one day be enough to pay the bills, but that's for you to judge. This is how I feel about YouTube today. And speaking about paying the bills with YouTube work, I have some quick but exciting news for you. First of all, I'd like to take a minute to tell you about my brand new Patreon page. I literally just started using it, but if you would like to join me on there, it will be greatly appreciated. There will be goodies on there to look forward to, as you will see later in this video. I would also like to tell you that during my absence from my own channel, I took on video editing projects for other people as well. So I've been actively working on YouTube and getting into the mindset, and I'm happy to be here on my own channel once again. So let's roll the intro and we shall talk about some original content in the second part of this video. So today I have some art to share with you. I'm working on a Flamedramon redesign here, but first I wish to explain what I mean by redesign, and then we'll discuss Flamedramon specifically in the third part of this video. I find that artistic terminology can be confusing for some people sometimes, so let me say a few words about how we identify art and what I mean by redesign. I've been looking up some paintings and character design work recently, mainly to see other people's Digimon art. But generally speaking, every time I browse a gallery, I can't help not to notice the huge variety in people's techniques, going from work that is obviously made within a certain style to work that is barely identifiable. So it made me think about categorization, which is important when it comes to, navigating the vast art galleries we have today. Sometimes I find it difficult to find what I'm looking for. Now, when I look for art, there are mainly two things that get my attention before anything else does: accuracy or intentional redesign. First, let me define some terminology here. So what do I mean by accuracy? For example, if the artist's intention is to draw Mewtwo levitating above a hill watching the moonlight, I expect to see exactly that. But there's a problem. When I view it up close, I realize that the anatomy is all over the place. I mean, if you're watching this video, you probably know what Mewtwo looks like, right? But here we have a piece of work that claims to portray Mewtwo, when in reality, the anatomy and look of the image are so different from the original Mewtwo design, my brain can't recognize it as being Mewtwo. Of course, not only anatomy can be distorted. It really doesn't matter which part of the image is unrecognizable, as long as it overpowers the entire piece. I can't show anything on here because of copyright, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's impossible not to run into this phenomenon while browsing modern art. Some people say that they can't do it due to various reasons, but other people say that their art style is different. This is actually an error, because art style doesn't have much to do with the artist, but rather with culture. Art style is by definition a manner in which art is made that makes it instantly recognizable as being part of a certain subset of artistic looks, like Art Deco, or abstract art, or portraiture, or pop art, such as Pokemon, right? Art style is a set of predefined rules that an artist applies to their art-making process that will result in a piece that looks in a way that people can immediately recognize. And going back to our Mewtwo Pokemon example, this means studying the visual profile, where it comes from, what the original anatomy of Mewtwo looks like, what the world is like in this Pokemon universe, and what the viewers know about the Pokemon style. Essentially, how does an artist make sure that their Pokemon art is identifiable as such? Well, in this case, it's easy. Pokemon famously has a style, and I'm using this example because we all know that style. There is a threshold over which Pokemon art is no longer identifiable as such, as people change more and more about how Pokemon look, their anatomy, their world and social dynamics. Eventually, it becomes a different thing. That's how art style actually works technically. I've seen countless people using this terminology wrong, so I just wanted to clarify this. There is a concept called an artist's signature style, which has to do with recognizing an artist's work as being their own, based on how they technically achieve their results, but that's different from art style. An artist only has an art style of their own when their work becomes culture, even if it's small. I didn't make the rules, but these are the rules of the game, so to speak. Let's be clear though, nobody has to follow these rules if they don't want to, but doing so certainly makes art much more easier to notice and connect with. In fact, if you look closely, I'm not following the rules either. What I'm doing here is not Digimon art. It's my own version of it. The original content I was talking about before. Is this my art style though? Well, that's not for me to decide, but I can tell you what my artwork here definitely is. And this brings me to the other thing I look for in art, which is intentional redesign. I like redesigning stuff, and I love it when people take something and turn it into something of their own, as long as the art is categorized as such so I can find it. I remember when I watched Digimon almost 20 years ago, I was fascinated with it. And I personally always liked it better than Pokemon since it made more sense to me. Anything is possible in VR, right? But when that happens to me personally, I also pay a lot of attention to the character design, and sometimes I find things that I wish I could change about certain characters. Even when that feeling comes after all these years later, I'm happy to have it because it's a fun creative process. So I said, I'm gonna do just that with one of my most favorite Digimons, which is Flamedramon. I'm making my own version of Flamedramon while using Blender to make a 3D version. It's just my art medium of choice for this video. This is not a Blender tutorial though. I don't make a good teacher, but if this is your first time seeing this software and you want to learn it, rest assured that there's a huge community behind it and tons of video tutorials. Blender is also free. With all that being said, this is the last part of this video, and I'm excited to tell you all about my version of Flamedramon and why he looks the way he does. I'm gonna start with the eyes, because when it comes to the eyeballs themselves, I will simply carry the design forward from the original Flamedramon. When I work on a character, I almost always start with the eyes. It helps me connect with the character quite a bit better, and in this case, I want the final result to have a toon look. And the original eyes already have that. By the way, there will be a soft shaded view showing up here and there. That is just my work view. I use it to be able to see what I'm doing. The end result will have a toon look. Regarding the other colors, I will use the original ones as well. I personally like the original colors, and I want this character to be easily identifiable, even in a small thumbnail picture. And now, the small details. You know, I never really truly liked the original shape of Flamedramon's body in general, so I sculpted this bipedal dinosauriform lizard figure and then gave it Flamedramon features, and let me tell you why I made this decision. I used speculative evolution as a set of general guidelines to help me make sense of Flamedramon's anatomy based on his origin, but I'm not making a real-life Flamedramon. I have no intention to use realism this time. Spec Evo helped me decide on the body form I want to go with, but that's about it for this character. Flamedramon is officially described as a Dragon Man Digimon, and the letters DRAGONMAN in that order make no sense to me beyond simple comparative description. Dragons are lizards, arguably flying theropods, so for that reason I adopted the dinosaurimorph overall body shape, although this is more of a Silesaur, and I will explain what I mean by that in a few minutes. Flamedramon evolves from v-mon via the Digi-Egg of Courage, and v-mon pretty much looks like a simplified lizard, apart from his arms and hands. v-mon is a rookie dragon Digimon, and there is no man in Flamedramon's evolution source data. I decided to match the colors to those of v-mon, like in the original Flamedramon, because armor evolution essentially creates an older, as in adult, stronger version of the source rookie Digimon with some armor on, basically. So It makes sense to me to have the original colors, including his face, neck and belly. However, unlike v-mon, I'll carry the white portion of his body all the way back to the tip of his tail, since dragon scales are usually spread like that, and with softer scales along the front of the neck, jaw, belly, chest, and all the way along the bottom part of their tail, and stronger scales across their back and a gradient in between. I also decided to paint the palms of Flamedramon's hands, as well as the soles of his feet, in the same shade of white. These are sensitive areas for almost every land creature, so it makes sense for these areas to therefore be softer so that they can pass tactile information better. I assumed that the white was used to represent these sensitive areas on Flamedramon's body in the first place, so that's why I used the white. As far as claws are concerned, I decided to not give him any significant ones. I know, but nobody's perfect, right? Besides, his armor didn't seem like it was designed to accommodate long claws, but it does compensate by having those sharp blades, so I used a darker blue tone for these so-called claws, so that I can kind of outline their shape, if you may. I want to put emphasis on the armor as far as weapons are concerned, so less claws under the armor, more claws on the armor, so to speak. Also, speaking of claws and arms and legs, I gave him hands like v-mon has, but only 3 fingers with a thumb for each hand and 3 toes for each foot. Oh yeah, and by the way, Flamedramon's original legs do not look very useful to me anatomically speaking. I kind of just wanted to change them completely. So I went with sprint-ready digitigrade legs for my version of Flamedramon and lower ankles, like in Dinosaurimorphs. Main reason being that if you don't have enough room between the ankle and the knee, you don't get to have big enough muscles to enable powerful locomotion. It's like basic anatomy. Think of cats and how high they can jump and why. I don't understand the logic behind Flamedramon's original leg design. Like, imagine having to support the entire body on those tiny structures between the ankles and the knees, let alone actually moving. I get that this is technically VR and you can be anything you want, but there's Digimon which do have correct anatomy, so why not give them all correct anatomy, you know? My theory is that it makes characters easier to understand, and as far as the arms are concerned, the long arms are famously not present in dinosaurs, but rather in Siosaurs, the sister clade to the dinosaurs, and I did mention that I was gonna get back to this later, because this is where I drew inspiration from when I made Loney, my original space alien character, and the same thing applies to Flamedramon, because I kind of used a Siosaur to represent the basic shape of the lizard body when I made both of these characters. Why a Siosaur? Well, because these reptiles did actually have long arms and legs in real life back in those days. I like to use reference like this for arms and legs. Anatomy like this offers room for proper musculature and enables powerful movement and more stamina. Let me show you the final version of Loney, by the way. Making him was a lot of fun, but I'm planning to keep going, making more and more characters using different techniques, like giving them a toon look, for example, which is what I'm gonna do here with the Flamedramon redesign. By the way, I've been looking up some information and videos about Flamedramon, and to be honest, I haven't been able to find that much. I mean, there are some gameplay videos of people like speed painting Flamedramon that were uploaded 15 years ago. I think I've seen a couple of cosplay videos too, but text articles are also kind of rare. Is it me or is Flamedramon not quite that popular? I mean, okay. v-mon has a ton of evolutions, like too many to count, which is why he's such a badass Digimon, I think. But his natural evolutions can either be V-dramon or X-v-mon, the latter being a pure breed of V-dramon, and as far as I was able to learn, pure breeds can't further evolve, which is why X-v-mon needs to Jogress evolve with Stingmon in order to reach the evolved forms of Paledramon or Dino-Beamon, which are both chimeras of the original X-v-mon and Stingmon. I don't even know, man, it's confusing, but on the other hand, the evolution of V-dramon all the way up to the various forms of Alfor's V-dramon is much more easier to follow. And the reason why I'm bringing up both v-mon's natural evolutions is to see what happens to his design in evolution as v-mon grows into these various adult forms. For example, X-v-mon carries his forehead V, as well as the yellow arrows on his cheeks, while V-dramon doesn't. X-v-mon even carries v-mon's colors forward, while V-dramon doesn't. Flamedramon is a pseudo-evolution rather than a natural one, as armor evolution was supposed to increase a Digimon's power in a time when natural Digivolution took a lot longer to achieve. I figured My Flamedramon should probably have all the original Flamedramon physical abilities, but he should carry some sort of average of the visual features of v-mon's naturally evolved forms. For example, Flamedramon should have the V on his forehead, since the original mask design does hint to that, as well as X-V-mon carries v-mon's facial features, but not necessarily v-mon's cheek arrows, because V-Dramon doesn't carry the forehead V nor the arrows. I don't know about the V and the arrows though. I mean, what do you think? I decided not to do the arrows, and since I don't have the chest thing, I don't know about the crest of courage either. Maybe it should go on the inside of the helmet? And I have another dilemma. You know, sometimes Digimon evolve while not building upon the strong features they already have, but rather by morphing into something else altogether. This is one of those things that never made sense to me when it comes to natural Digivolution. Why do some Digimon maintain a familiar shape and logical feature set as they evolve, and others don't? Again, I'm talking about natural evolution here, not Jogress or armor evolution like Flamedramon, because when it comes to those, it kind of makes sense to like end up with different anatomy, even though armor evolution and anatomical distortion is debatable. Oh, and why do all Digimon look like Transformers in the end? Like, now you're a bird, and before you know it, you're a humanoid robot thing. Like, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. Maybe it does to other people. The Metal Empire family is confusing to me. Maybe you have an answer to this dilemma. You know, one of the reasons why I like working on art like this is because it helps me find answers to questions like that. I personally think that the human form is overrated. Life comes in all shapes and sizes. I don't see why not consider other forms. It's much more challenging and refreshing to think from a non-human perspective. I don't want to miss out on that. It's fun. It's so, I don't know, it's kind of funny actually. I mean, remember when we first used Google Earth? Or even when using Google Maps today, we had access to the entire planet. We could go anywhere we wanted. But what do most people do? They search for their own house or their own address. This is what the human form feels like to me, okay? One can be anything they want in a fictional universe. Any form, any shape, any size. But they choose the human form. Like I mentioned before, Flamedramon is a dragon. Even though dragons usually fly and Flamedramon doesn't, he still has some serious power. Does not having wings mean he's not a proper dragon though? I don't know. That would make for an interesting discussion. Tell me what you think. Next, I'll color the armor and then I'll be done. I'm starting with the pants. And yes, you saw that right. Instead of the chest thing, I gave him pants. Because, well, v-mon is a fighter and so is Flamedramon. I mean, he literally uses the D-Jug of Courage. That means he's gonna take action when called upon, and although this is a human thing, you kind of expect to see this sort of outfit associated with that kind of personality, you know. Maybe I'm a bit biased. It helps associate Flamedramon with a masked fighter during a fighting scene, and I think that's a trait that should be enforced. The rest of the armor, it will simply be carried forward from the original. So same shapes and same colors, but the proportions will have to be adjusted to fit this anatomy. And the helmet, I must say, this is my favorite part of this armor, closely followed by the hand pieces. Like, dude, who has a helmet like that? It's so cool. Like, honestly. The hand weapons are pretty cool with the 3 long blades and the painting, which is basically representing fire. I guess the armor is the flame in Flamedramon. Hey, by the way, when I asked if he was truly a dragon, the armor comes with elemental properties, right? It carries the fire element, so maybe he is a true dragon after all. He doesn't fly, but he can jump pretty high. He has fire attacks, armor, speed, power. I mean, sounds like a dragon to me. Maybe. And yeah, last but not least, his knees and feet have armor as well, which also has flames drawn on like each component, so I did just that. The lower components also carry blades, like the hand armor, but to be honest, I made them smaller in order for the proportions to make sense. Besides, if you want to be agile, you don't want your legs to carry too much unnecessary weight. The armor is strong enough, even if it's a bit thin. This is VR after all, right? And now, the final moments of this part of the video. I will show you the end result with and without armor and in toon view. I prepared this toon view since before recording the video, so I'm ready to go. It's my first time seeing it complete as well, so I decided to dial in a few poses and show Flamedramon in a bunch of different scenarios, not just fighting. It's true that you can learn a lot about someone from the way they fight, but it's always better to have a more complete version of their behavior. And as I mentioned before, Flamedramon seems to be a bit of a side character in the mainstream, but the Digimon fandom seems to show him some love, so I just wanted to add to the Flamedramon fandom, no matter how small it is. I don't have other models in this file, by the way, but I want to start off by showing him in a sitting position and chilling. Just pretend there's a chair. Thing is though, he would require a different kind of chair in order to properly support his body. Non-human anatomy, I guess, right? You know, maybe I should start thinking what kind of furniture would a character like this actually use. I mean, that would be interesting, right? Next, I have a jumping pose. And this time, we have armor. This is the classic Flamedramon, right? In the middle of the fight, probably doing some high jump attack with his arms. I think this pose really shows why I went with this anatomy. This probably is my favorite pose here. I like a good action shot, and I think the anatomy works with me in this case. And now, in contrast, I have him in a more intimate scenario, probably recovering after a battle. All you usually see in the mainstream media about Flamedramon is fighting, right? But what happens when things don't go so well? For example, it looks like he took some damage because his leg seems to hurt. Maybe it was a tough battle. I wonder what happened. I like the idea of being able to take the armor off. It makes sense if he gets to spend long enough time in that Flamedramon form. And I'm also looking at this from a perspective of like a wild Flamedramon, not necessarily one that has to do with the so-called Digidestined, right? But rather like a wild v-mon that just happens to have evolved into Flamedramon. Next up, we have a standing pose with armor on again. This is pretty self-explanatory, and it's easier to see what everything looks like. I wanted to have him in like a natural standing pose, just kind of looking around, exploring or thinking about something. I mean, this is more or less body language. You get to know the character better by how they carry themselves and how they move and how they express emotion. It's a fun challenge to try and work out how body language will work with non-human anatomy. And then lastly, I have lazy Flamedramon. Just pretend he's crashed on something cozy. This is funny to me for some reason, because when you think of Flamedramon, it's usually not this, right? But this is part of life. There's nothing wrong with just chilling sometimes. I mean, you know, I just wish I had something in the scene for him to sit on, but, you know, hey-ho. And now we have reached the end of this video, but before I go, I have a surprise for you. If you decide to join my Patreon, the blend file for this project will be available on there as a resource. More details about using the file will be available on the related post. I am gonna upload stuff like this on there for you to have a look at for yourselves if you're interested. I was thinking that for whatever video I make, I could share some of the resources I used on you know, things I made for that video, like if I have like you know, behind the scenes wall, I don't know, something like along those lines. We'll see. I'm looking to build a community on Patreon, like the internet fam, right? So anyway, until next time, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you when I see you next, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Hi everybody, my name is Sergiu. I forgot the script. Hi everybody, my name is Sergiu. Why? It's just. Hi everyone, my name is Sergiu. I am not at my main location today, however. Hi everyone.